All right, well, why don't we go ahead and get started? I guess the first thing I'd like to do is thank you all for coming here. Does anybody want to volunteer to take notes?
I'll volunteer to volunteer.
I can try to make notes.
Okay, that'd be great.
No problem. That's neat.
So the purpose of this session is to hopefully get some feedback and come out of here with some action items for how we can make Linaro a better starting point for people who are building product. So, this covers pretty much a wide swath of things, and, it's everything from our reference images to the software that we're providing to the software that maybe, is coming out of the Ubuntu catalog that needs to be, better set up for those people doing embedded kinds of things. So, this is kind of a tough one just because there's so much things out there in this that can go in so many different directions. I've gone ahead and kind of put some things initially into the notes, just kind of hope to kind of kick things off. So
I think I also
go ahead.
When I covered what actually was changed at Linaro, and in the beginning we didn't want to have downstream work, and we're just basically trying to focus on upstream and etc. And that kind of changed when they created evaluation build.
Right. And
now the whole idea is to have something that is kind of verified and we know that it works well on the SLC vendor's hardware, so they can actually try to build something from that. And that is the idea now, that okay, if they actually wanted to make a product, what exactly they want to do it and how they want to do it and what do we need to provide them. And that's, I think, it's where we can start.
Yeah.
Just an overview. Okay, we can follow it.
So, today we've got our 4 reference images. We've got the lab, we've got ALIP, we've got Nano, and we've got the developer image. Does anybody in the audience have any comments on those as far as, does it work well? Got some things you'd like to see changed?
Well, I will just use the same stuff. I always say that from my point of view, ALIP and Nano, to be honest, as well, are slightly too big. But the ALIP will be addressed at a separate session, so that's not much to say today.
Yeah.
There is a session about ALIP tomorrow, and it's about Nano. I think it's a that it should be slightly smaller. Will it happen or not? That's a separate question. So that's the only comment I have. And the only user story I can tell you about is that what we do for our reference images for our customers, we used to take the ARM ALIP, right, which was very simple stuff. We literally add 5 files inside, which here and there it says the custom kernel module, a few binaries here and there. We take some libraries out, to create a set root for our examples, and that's what we ship. So we don't really do any substantial customization of those images, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're more than happy to have as much Linaro stuff as possible, with as little of our changes as possible to save our time, right?
Yeah.
And so yes, please. I'm more than happy to have some easy way of customization of those images. Obviously, we have some constraints, so probably at some point of time we'll be able to use the Ubuntu to build our stuff, but it's not today, right? We are constrained to the stuff that is provided to the machines that are provided by IT, and most of them are sent to us, as I said before. But don't be fixated about it. Yeah, that's our problem.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get some Ubuntu's at some point of time. And there is a additional problem with that even if we get the Ubuntu machines, it will be very hard to get any root capabilities, so we won't be able just to run media create, for instance.
Okay, that's kind of the same problem we have with rootstock. You know rootstock? To kind of create root FS for Ubuntu.
Right. Yeah.
And we had a problem with that in the previous cycle because TI wanted to be able to create root FS and to use it in their machine, so they also needed to be run as user. So what basically did, I added that option on rootstock itself to basically create a key image and then just use it that. And then you can basically use it as a user and still get a valid root FS again. So that's kind of a solvable solution.
Fair enough. Cool. Yeah, but if there is a solution, that's good. But as we speak, this is a sort of problem.
Yeah.
It's not unsolvable, obviously, but
that's why I still didn't actually scale it, but I have another session that we kind of discussed on previous sessions regarding how do I create the rootfs image, how do I create images, and how do I want people to create it and cross-create it. So there's another session just to discuss what kind of tool would be useful to make it available, and do we want to improve latency with FS, and do we want to improve root log and create a different tool just to make it really fast available. So I know to be able to have a Linaro as a headstart for products, we wanted to specify a manner where the people or clients could build their own rootfs. So that's something that I think it's kind of clear already. And that's why we need another discussion to see what kind of tool we need. But
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on the images?
Again, I agree with, just making that nano image really not much longer than it is, but a little smaller, and that it's fast to boot. So as a user, I can go in and just start adding the packages I want.
Okay.
Useful for a lot of customers.
So with regards to Nano, it sounds like you want it to be both smaller, but you want to keep the functionality of app in there for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Or have a way to add the packages ahead of time, so I can add this for code. So, put command line options. I need these 15 packages as well.
Okay.
while creating.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you'd be okay once you get to the installation point that if you couldn't run app anymore, just as long as it's set up the way that you want it by the time that it hits the SD card. Is that fair?
I think that's a suitable solution for a lot of people, but for me personally, I'd rather have app,
Okay.
even if it's a slightly larger.
Well, couldn't you select act as a package
Yeah.
to do, so?
You can. So, maybe an interesting follow-up question to this is, once you've gone ahead and you create, maybe they're used for validation or whatever the purpose is that you're doing this, are you going to go and do an apt update? Where you're going to upgrade the packages later? Or are you going to go to throw that out and create a whole new image?
I wouldn't mind, personally, I wouldn't mind having to do update at this point.
Any question on LLC?
So I guess for the second question, Peter, Ricardo's taking notes.
And what is the font you've added in your box?
I mean, I blanked for a while, so I'm just paying attention. This all makes sense already. In some ways, it would be nice if we could provide a service. Currently you have to be an Ubuntu engineer to be able to build a new image type or so on, set up a job in Offspring. It would be very nice if there was some way we could say to a community, who we don't necessarily trust completely, that you can create a job so you could do what you were saying, where you have basically Nano, but you want to change it a bit, and we could have a service that would build these images for you. But currently, life can help it, of course, blah, blah.
You mean,
There's no
we
secure way.
kind of discussed it already that we want to have want to have some kind of service that already get our current images and build it with the
Right,
specific
change
hardware
it,
packages
yeah.
and etc. So, yeah,
But the security aspect is pretty
Yeah,
scary
yeah.
there, isn't it?
well, yes.
Maybe we can use David Mandela's hacked up pandas or something.
Well, but
Instead of maybe taking on that service ourselves, what if we gave them, essentially the build system on a CD, more or
that
less
would work.
set up
do
and
we
installed?
actually need to have for example, web service that would create image? And one time, for example, you just go to web, I want this package, and please give me a rootfs, or just having the tools, or even a virtual machine would be enough.
Well, that's certainly something we'd like to have in Offspring. There's been an ongoing discussion about adding that to the set of capabilities we have. So I work on the other side of the chronicle with the OEM group that created Offspring. So it's definitely in the plan to create such a service and to add the access controls and things so that it's more flexible.
Okay.
I don't have specific timeframes for you on that, but it's definitely a goal.
Okay.
And And I think as far as deploying Offspring, like on a CD, it's a bit complicated, just because of the setup and the number of servers and things, so
Yeah.
initially a service might be a better way to go. It's certainly possible, but it's
Okay, I didn't actually check the technical details of Offspring, but can you give an overview of it?
I'm probably not the right guy to do it, but I mean, it's just a build system that can take basically a recipe to establish a seed and a set of meta packages, and then output the set of packages you want in various kinds of output formats, either ISO or IEG or rootfs, tarball, or whatever.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And it's got a web interface for creating that stuff, monitoring the builds. There's just a few things it's missing, I think, to go to the next level.
Do you know?
One of the things is, I guess you know this, like all our build images are built natively, right? So it's an ARM server that does the build,
Right.
which will do all the usual
Yeah, but we
cross
also want to
hosting.
cross-include.
But how? I mean, if you weren't using Debian packages, you have post-inst, and like, for example, if
No,
QEMU isn't good enough to install Mono because the post-inst does compilation and all just
Well, that's an issue that we still need to solve. I mean, from the open embedded perspective, what we did is basically to run all the pulses
It's
scripts
on first
in the
boot,
first
right?
build.
Yeah.
So that really can't be a solution. We just basically untar everything and set everything up, and then the first boot it will take 10 minutes, but then it works. And that also covers, for example, if you want to create a new sub-architecture or build it, for example, for A15, and we don't have keying support for that at the moment in neither. So if we can just, in the future, just put it in a board or something like that and just run it in the first build, that would kind of fix that already. So. Okay.
Is any of this like where you add like these packages? Is that something you could like tack on to LMC already, or?
You can do it, and
Well, MNC.
I mean, you get the post install scripts. I guess you're talking about.
I mean, LMC,
But
hardware
MNC
packs are
was
still in the
created.
QEMU, so you end up with the same problems.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to extend MNC for that, because it was kind of created just to grab rootfs and grab hardware packaging and create a media image.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
Now we're talking about creating rootfs. So
I mean, in some sense, you can do that already, because building your own hardware pack is not very difficult. The hardware pack is nothing other than a set of packages.
sure.
But yeah, whether that's
Can you add to hardware packs? I thought the definition of a hardware pack was a specific set of files, and you couldn't
well,
add additional.
but defining a hardware, text file, you run a command, Linaro hardware pack create, and you give it a text file, and then it just bundles them. So you add another package to the text file. And
So
building
if you
hardware
add-
packs is it's not a resource intensive, or it doesn't require running natively. Right? It's just a tarball essentially. Pretty much. So that's actually pretty easy.
You know, and the thing is if we're looking at kind of pushing out or extending some way Live Builder, I mean, it already has the mechanism to add, packages, either locally or through lists or what have you. So, I mean, it's kind of got the flexibility. I don't know why you necessarily want to add a package through kind of the hardware pack option.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Whenever I look at the live helper config, I go,
Well, and that's kind of brings up if we could evolve, Live Helper so that it wasn't that kind of experience, that would probably be fantastic.
yeah.
I mean, I don't see that out of the realm of impossible.
Well, in fact, most of our live helper configs actually have a script within them, the way you edit that script, and then you run that script, and that creates a live helper config, and then you commit, and then that's what Offspring uses, right?
Yes.
Seems a little bit crazy.
It is. Yeah, there's plenty of sharp edges that you can get yourself hooked on those. Okay.
So okay, it seems like that the biggest question here is how they can actually relate it and create custom images. I believe this is the core problem to be able to use this kind of use that as a basic for a product.
Right.
This kind of the problem is centered basically on how can we generate custom rootfs that we can expand it, we can add our own repository, our own packages, and our own scripts that we want. It's kind of what the same requirement that I had when creating Rootstock, so
Right.
it
And,
seems to be the case.
you know, just, I know this has kind of been covered elsewhere, or it seems like I've had this conversation numerous times over the past couple of days, and that is, does it also make sense that when, you know, you are building your own images, that tools like Linaro Media Create maybe could be taken out of the process now? Because presumably you know what board you're going to be building for. You know, you want to end up with something that you could ultimately DD instead, as opposed to something that goes with a hardware pack, you know, for yet another step. You want to maybe cut that off and just, you know, spit out that thing that goes directly on the
Yeah, I think
board.
you have both, you want both solutions.
Do you?
Yeah,
Think
that
so?
sounds good to me, definitely.
I mean, I've just scripted, so I just go, make me an image, and it just, and I'll just tell it what hardware pack, what device I'm making for, and what file system I want, and it just goes, pulls everything in from the latest, or you specify the date, and then it just builds you a DD image, that's it. So,
And also, were you in the pre-built images session we had
Yes.
yesterday? Right, I mean, that's kind of, and then,
and it's a
not
job.
really, the sort of
The
thing,
thing
but
about
not
the
really.
pre-built images,
Well,
it's that matrix, isn't it? You know?
Well, we're going to make building we're going to have to make a lot of images that are completely DDable, so we're going to make it easy to make images that are DDable. There's no reason why we can't make it easy for other people to make those images as well.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
So yes, I think is the answer, but we're going to do it anyway. So.
There you go.
So can I ask a higher level type question? What kind of support do you envision giving to, you know, a company that would say choose one of these and say, and then say they find a bug? I mean, are we just normal stuff, IRC channels and stuff, or I mean, once this starts going out into product, I think manufacturers are going to start saying, well, this is broken. Are you going to fix it?
You know, and we're probably not the right people in the room to answer that kind of question, because I think it's going to take more of a business person to, you know, say that, yes, we'll sign up for some level of support and this is how that's going to work. I mean, beyond that, I think the best we can do is just say, you know, we use our traditional things, IRC and email and the
Well,
list. And
there's two basic things. If it is basically only Ubuntu related, then it's fine. We kind of, okay, we just follow the Ubuntu process and we get the support for free. But if you're planning to support, for example, the hardware package or even other stuff, then it's something that is still on discussion to see if they actually want to bring up someone, a team, for example, to actually maintain the things that we are releasing.
Sure.
But currently, it's just basically engineer support at RC or maybe it's.
Because just so you know, that is an actual use case. So I have had,
yeah.
I talked to somebody using it, and now he's coming back, you know, I see him on IRC asking questions, and I feel guilty, because it's like,
Yeah.
well, I really can't help you.
Yeah.
I don't know how, so.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's the expectation management to some
Yeah,
extent.
yeah.
Yeah, before I came to Linaro, this was essentially kind of my job in that internal to IBM, we had a Linux distribution, and we still do, that other IBM product groups would use. And so, I mean, yeah, you had to provide support and
Right, yeah,
all that,
they-
so.
Yeah,
they-
Yeah, so
They're gonna get there.
my understanding is Linaro really isn't set up to provide that kind of support.
Right.
And to some extent, Canonical is, and we are trying to engage partners who would also be, you know, providing services based on all this software. So
Yeah.
there should be other third parties to go to, and some of you guys might be them.
Well, I guess, yeah, that's probably one of the answers. Is how do you get support? Well, talk to Canonical that way, yeah.
Yeah.
and how
But
usually
that's tough.
works
I mean,
on-
like Matt's
Oh, that's
saying,
fine.
you know, we're working for Linaro. People ask us about it, and you're like, oh, we've got this cool stuff. Take a look at it, and they use it, and kernel's broke. And you're like,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
But I mean, how it works in ODM, you actually have a contract with our port, but and you probably add some more additional packages and some other features on the images. How are you actually supporting that?
Various ways. I mean, we can manage specific repositories and maintenance services for people that we have contracts with. And as I said, we're trying to extend that out to other third parties so that they can do similar kinds of things. So there should be people there to provide that support, even if it's not directly from Linaro. But I understand your point. You know, it's kind of up to you guys in Linaro how much you want to very interested in solving those base problems. But it's not really a contractual commitment that people can base product on. I think that's the difference, you know, they can certainly get help in all those normal ways, but, you know, it's not product level guaranteed support.
Yeah.
That's got to be.
Yeah,
paid for
it's not
somehow.
product level, but we do want to have some guarantee on it, and that's why the LAB is all about. So we want something that is stable, we want something that works on the hardware, and you can use it to build something, and not just test on the
I
hardware.
guess sort of the argument is if someone takes a Linaro build and uses unsupported hardware and finds a bug, we're going to be fixing it anyway, in principle, aren't we? So it's not like it's a special requirement for them that the kernel's broken, we're running around screaming anyway.
But still, yeah, this is probably going to be the first question that people are going to make.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe some of that star rating conversation helps some, to where if someone took a 1-star build and it's like, hey, it doesn't work. Well, you went into it eyes wide open, you know. But if they take a 5-star and it is completely broken, then like you're saying, it is something that we got to deal with.
Something's really bad. Okay.
And if someone is really interested in having a contract, then yeah, we say talk to our friends at Canonical.
Okay.
Because yeah, I mean it's not someone who's building a product is going to be investing a bunch of money anyway, right? We're going to be hopefully they won't be expecting us to be magic.
Yeah, I know that.
It's
Yeah, we need to understand more about what the SOC are telling the people that are actually trying to build product with their own hardware and the Linaro deliverables, because maybe they're just saying, okay, if you want a software, you just go to Linaro and grab it and support it and whatever. So it's not the truth.
yeah.
So. Okay, so support is a big thing.
Well, maybe we want to get into this next section. And this was kind of an open sort of question, and that is, you know, when you're putting together an embedded solution, there's typically some common problems that you end up having to go and you see people solve over and over again. You know, startup time being a wonderful example. You know, people want this thing to boot up in, you know, a second or whatever, depending on what the requirements are. You know, it seems that commonality of that kind of problem, maybe we ought to have something in Linaro, you know, maybe it's a how-to page, you know, on the wiki, maybe it's, you know, something a little bit more substantial of, okay, you know, put in this componentry, now you're going to get that achieved. And, you know, that's not the only problem that's out there. You know, should we be kind of enabling or capturing or something to help people along?
Well, all I can say that, you know, if anyone here saw the original ARM value, I think it was made by Mobile, all the packaging, etc. It was particularly ugly, in my personal opinion. The initial init scripts were rubbish, etc., and still there were some companies, you know, some 5-person small companies doing some custom products, using those as a base for their products. I wouldn't expect anyone to use it as a base for a product, but it happened. So, yeah, sooner or later, yes, probably there are already some products based on Linaro root file system. You may even know about them.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened during the showcase. I mean, I've been working with Ubuntu ARM and bringing up Reforma 4 and etc. And when I went to the showcase, everybody was using Ubuntu. Everybody was using our root OS and our kernel, etc. So, okay. And I really believe that people are going to do the same for the next cycle with our Ubuntu LID image. So, yeah. We got some weird companies using it.
But I mean, in the case of some of these problems that people want to solve, is it sufficient or a good idea, or even in the right ballpark, to try just, look, it comes back, like Andy was saying, that for a 5-star supported platform, if we make it boot in half a second on Panda and say, and if you're not using Panda, you're using some Freescale board, but look, this is all the things we have, you know, give a worked example, I guess, of solving some of these problems. Is that a good sort of thing to write under this item in the notes? I don't know.
How general is the problem of fast booting something? Because every time I've seen it, you know, it's been, you know, do all these specific kernel configurations for your board and your Ubuntu, and some of them are very generic. Like the init script problem, hey, if there was a fast boot image, like Ubuntu fast boot, yeah, definitely people would take that and solve the top end of the problem. But
What you care about is how long it takes the camera to switch on or something.
yeah.
One thing, like, doesn't the Linaro, you would have the 5-second delay to,
Yeah.
so we can't do a 1-second boot up.
Bigger is even worse, it's 10 seconds.
Well, I like right now that that our delay on Panda it takes longer than what it actually takes to boot the system.
Yeah.
At least when you're running Nano.
But I believe that could be described on the wiki page.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, some of this stuff is, since Matt and I do wiki stuff, I mean, and you can create some kind of how-to on,
Yeah, we can
you
explain.
know, booting Panda or booting Overo or whatever.
There's the beginnings of that in there anyway.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of have that there, so
What kind
I
of-
guess I'm encouraging,
You know,
add a little love to it.
And we do have a blueprint in process for doing some level of documentation for the web. So maybe this is all kind of related in some fashion for, okay, this is the lab itself, and here's the kind of the next, what are probably going to be FAQs from the developers. What they want to
Do you
do.
guys have like plans for a forum around the evaluation builds, or, I mean, is there already kind of stuff built into the website for that?
It's just launched a stock exchange thing.
Yeah, we've got a Stack Exchange.
Well, but yeah, I mean, we could explain, on the board side, how to customize it, how to work, how to build it, and even we can basically explain how Ubuntu works. Okay,
Yeah.
and the boot processes use upstart, and then you can optimize here, here, that. You probably don't need this, and that for that purposes, and
Yeah.
that should be kind of fine.
Yeah, the point being is we probably don't want to have the assumption that people are coming to Linaro as being prior Ubuntu users.
Yeah.
So those
yes.
Ubuntuisms are probably something that we need
to
to
explain how it works.
Yeah.
we need to get in front of people.
I spent half the day trying to figure out what upstart is actually doing.
Well, starting, of course.
So, yeah.
So okay, I believe that like tuning and how the startup process work, how the shutdown process work, how we can customize the kernel, how we can create our own hardware package, how can we create our own images, and I mean that should cover most of the things.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to actually have this guidance of on functional choices, maybe you can just point to the rating system, star rating system. Okay, this is how we're qualifying. This is your needs. I mean, if you want to have graphic support, then this is our test cases, and this is how we're qualifying and creating the rating system. So, if you want to have a product for that, please follow that kind of rules. Run those test cases on your board. And then if you have the same solution and same result, then it's okay.
Yeah. Well, that kind of idea even wasn't necessarily hardware based, so it was to give people more guidance with regards to, okay, you want an application that's going to be doing audio. Okay, you've got a long list to choose from if you look at the catalog. How do you know which one's going to be the best without, spending all the time and having to go through and run all that?
You mean more kind of documenting what it would be the best APIs to use?
Best APIs, or maybe like for instance, if the multimedia team would kind of weigh in and say, look, this is what we've been using to do all of our kind of bring up and
it
test.
makes sense because even if, for example, if you get a compositor, okay, I want to do it as Metacity or Compass or Kwin or
Yeah.
I guess two things come to mind. One of which is you want to document as part of all this what Linaro is not doing. So if you're building a product that's not RT7, go away kind of thing. And also, it's like it seems like it would be very difficult to answer all these questions in advance. So I think we need to try and bash into people as that if they want to work, they should ask questions, and also as a collective unit, we should be responsive to questions, right? Like, it'd be very bad if you wrote lots of wiki pages saying, ask your questions on us.linaro.org about what multimedia package you should use that we didn't answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bit of a risk, I think. That kind of happened with the forums we had before, right? I think there were a few lonely souls came along and posted questions and they weren't replied.
Yeah, kind of the easy answer would be, okay, please check what the graphics working group is working on.
Yeah.
And if you use any of those deliverables, then probably be optimized for ARM and probably should put it down.
But again, but we need a way for them to find out, right? Because that's something to sort through the
Yeah, we
technical
kind of need
blueprints
to talk with the working groups and see, okay, can you please just put what they're working on and stuff like that. Yeah, because, people are still free to use whatever API and whatever system they want. But if they want something that is optimized for ARM, then they should look for what the working groups are working on.
Right. So I think that's pretty much the end of my list, at least I had, so.
Yeah. Well, that's later, but yeah, there's cover most of the things I believe. Since from people need a tool to create rootfs that we don't have at the moment. I think it should be fine to continue using Linaro media create to do the other part. And then we need to document how the whole process. How to create a hardware package, how can you create it really fast, how can you customize it, and then we need to explain that. We need to give an overview, an architectural overview of our LLB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That should mostly do it.
That's a good start.
Okay, and then we need to check if we're actually going to do some kind of support. Or
Yeah.
long-term
What our answer is to the support
long-term
question.
Support.
Yeah.
We currently don't know.
I think this is a crazy half-baked idea, but one thing we could produce probably would be a SD card image that would have Offspring installed on it, so that you plug it. You'd have to do it per architecture, I guess, or per board. But it'd be easy enough to have an image for a Panda, do the SD card, put it in, and then it boots, and you can then drive Offspring through that. It wouldn't be super convenient, but it would work.
Yeah, we need a reliable way in place. We need to use a software that is actually going to be maintainable.
Offspring's
People
okay,
working
though.
on it. Okay.
Done plenty of Offspring hacking.
And is Ubuntu actually using Offspring already, or
Well,
what are the use cases?
OEM use Offspring all the time.
Oh, okay, cool.
In fact, Linaro, which is built using Offspring as well. So, yeah, it's definitely in use, and Cody and Tim. Their job is working on it, basically.
Okay.
It
It's
also
the right
runs-
solution, so it's
Yeah.
working. Cool. Yeah, I believe that the first question would be if you would be able to cross build and cross create the root FS.
Well, but that's not really that's the way Offspring works is it has pluggable backends, right? So it has a light up backend and it has a hardware backend, and so that's not Offspring's problem.
Okay, okay, fair enough.
Cross building images
Yeah, because
is
then,
interesting.
yeah. If we kind of solve that issue to run the posting scripts during the first boot, then we can cross boot for any other.
Well, then it's easy.
Yeah. It's just basically extracting, creating root FS. Okay. I think that's all. Any other question or point to discuss?
You're done. All right. Well, guess we get out a little bit early to lunch. Thanks, everyone.